Hey everyone, it's Jamie from Seasons and Ritual, and NP Street Tarot, and I'm here to talk about this beautiful dark moon in Libra that's happening right now. She went dark actually yesterday. She was maybe at 1% illumination. Today she's at 0% illumination. And I have to tell you, I am very happy to be in a dark moon right now. I can use the rest. So when the moon is dark, there means there's no illumination. So the sun and the masculine, the sun and the moon are together. Um, so there's no illumination. So that's our masculine and feminine coming together. And I always say it's this time of rest. It's the time to be with your beloved, which is yourself. It is this time that we go into the void, into the darkness, and that is when creation begins. And so I always the dark moon phase is very important for us. And a lot of times we don't schedule rest. And so I encourage you at these dark moon phases, schedule rest. I mean, we have lives and routines, but this is the part with the body where we realign. We have that deep conversation, maybe about how the last month went, the last, lunar cycle went, but being quiet and sitting with ourselves to see what can come up, right? The void is dark matter, dark space. That is where creation happens, right? We say when our masculine and feminine come together, we plant seeds, right? And that is um, creation. And it is time to remind yourself how much you love yourself and all the good things that you're doing and maybe all the good things that are yet to come. But when we give ourselves this break and give ourselves space to breathe and just be, don't have anything really planned, right? Then we are able to listen and we're able to see the magic around us and allow the magic to come in. And then, the way that I work with the moon, once the moon starts to show illumination, that's the new moon. That's when we would start maybe journaling or putting pen to paper or really kind of getting a plan together. So, and you guys, I do have a moon school. So if you're interested in working with the lunar phases, reach out to me and we could do that. So it'll be starting tomorrow, actually. So back to this dark moon in Libra. We are moving to the point where we're ending seasons or lunar cycles with dark moons, when before we were starting lunar cycles with dark moons. So, in a couple days, we will move into Scorpio season, right? And then we'll be starting a new lunar cycle. This dark moon in Libra, if you ask me right now, Libra is cardinal air. Um, it initiates, it's the way we speak, right? It's the way we think. Those are air signs. Libra is ruled by Venus. And the way that I can really top this off is the idea of the No Kings rallies that we've had, where over 8 million people showed up and protested peacefully. And when we think of, or when I think of Libra in balance, that is a huge representation of what we need to bring back into balance in the world because we're living in the world right now. There are wars, there's discord, people are feeling hopeless. And to me, this is a perfect representation of Libra season. And remembering that Libra is ruled by Venus, and um, Venus is a feminine sign. She also rules Taurus, and but it's about creation, right? It's about getting things back to where the natural balance of things, because things have been out of balance so long, and understanding that the scales always have to tip. You can't just stay in one source of energy. And we see that with people, if people are manic, it's one thing. If people are depressed, it's another thing. It's finding that balance. It's also important to remember that we have that three-eye atlas right? That's zooming through space, the interstellar object that we really have no information on right now because when it went past Mars, last week, the government was shut down and we were expecting all the little rovers to give us a better look at whatever this Three-Eye Atlas is comet thing. And I think that is also really indicative of this time right now because it was glowing green. Green is the heart chakra. It went by Mars. Mars has gone through this transformation of just being the god of war into the spiritual warrior, right? Showing up with a purpose, understanding intention, moving forward with intention, not just going to, understanding that actions have consequences. Mars is there now. And right now, Mars is in Scorpio, which was the original ruler of Scorpio. Um, and and a lot of people are talking about the air trines, the trines that are happening with this moon. But I'm more interested in seeing that the sun and the moon right now is squaring Jupiter and Cancer, right? Cancer is cardinal water. Cancer rules the home. Cancer is ruled by the moon as well. And Jupiter is expansion. And that square there, I always see squares as building blocks. So we have the sun and the moon in Libra that's trying to bring, that's not trying, but they are bringing things into balance. So that our masculine and feminine are Libra. It's squaring Jupiter in Cancer. So Jupiter is seen as this masculine sign in Cancer, which is a feminine water sign, and they're squaring each other. So it's not allowing us to expand too crazy on one idea, right? It's really getting us to think about what we consider our home, how we want to build our homes, right? And I mean, home is people, home is our structure, but our home, let's say the United States, our home is the world, right? How do we want to build that? What do we see that being in balance? How do we see that being fair, um, moving forward? How can we put love in that, right? Libra is ruled by Venus, working with that heart space. And then, like I said, Mars and Mercury are conjunct actually in Scorpio, and they're also conjunct Lilith. Scorpio is water, right? Um, or fixed water, right? And Mars is in a deep conversation. Mars just got blasted, I don't know, sprinkled stars, we're not sure because we didn't see it, by Three-Eye Atlas that brought in this new intelligence, green, I would say hard space onto Mars. And what is Mars doing right now? He's talking about it, right? He's talking about it with Mercury. They're in exact conjunction right now. Um, Mercury rules Gemini. Gemini is an air sign. Um, but it's really to me showing the peaceful protest, bringing things into balance. Mars, that masculine being in Scorpio, which is seen as feminine. Mercury in there, Lilith in there, who's also conjunct. Um, Lilith knows who she is. She always has. That's another balancing of these feminine and masculine energies. Like I said, Jupiter in Jupiter in Cancer, the sun and moon squaring that, balancing these masculine and feminine energies, sun and moon together, balancing the masculine and feminine. Um, and this is how we're going to move forward. And the idea that there was no there was no arrests at any of these rallies, at any of them that were due to protesters. No one, and I just don't know if you can understand having 8 million people come together and just that energy of coming together and that vibration of them being together and no arrests. I mean, that is bananas, you guys. That is bananas. Um, right now, Three-Eye Atlas is going towards the sun, so it's about to make it'll be out of sight because it'll be behind the sun pretty soon. So that'll be an interesting conversation between that and the sun. And then when it comes back around, it will go talk to Venus. So again, bringing in this new energy, balancing where we're at. But balancing the Earth to where it's at. Right now, Pluto, 1 degrees of Aquarius, Neptune, 0 degrees of Aries, Uranus, 0 degrees of Gemini. You know, those are planets and karmic starting points, starting and ending points, right? This is a big change for us. So, like I said, I was very happy for this dark moon for some rest. And it's important for us to understand um, it's okay to get rest. And also, it's important for us to understand that when energy starts to permeate, right, all through the galaxy, again, that's that age of Aquarius, right? She's the water bearer, right? She's holding that big urn, and you see the energy waves coming through, right? The Ray Atlas blazing through our solar system. We have two other comets that are coming through here, right? That's bringing in energy through the cosmos. And people want to know, well, what does that mean? And what does it look like? And it's going to start unfolding, right? It's not that it's not that we can't talk about it. It's just that it's going to be different. It's not going to be the same how it used to be, right? Because we're changing old systems. Old systems are collapsing. And before, everything was a fight, everything was a war, right? Age of Aries into that age of Pisces, all the world wars. And we're into this age of Aquarius where it is energy. They always say vibes, right? So it's going to look different. You know, what took down or took the or taking the wind out of the sails of this whatever we have going on in the White House was peace, was love, was joy, was dancing. It's inflatable Operation Inflation, right? It's not going head to head, right? It's not, you know, meeting them on their level. It's creating our own level. And that is what changes everything. And that is that age of Aquarius. It is about the individual first and the community. And we're seeing it play out so clearly. I mean, the way that I read the energy with the astrology. And, this dark moon is this time in Libra, is this time to go over, allow yourself to be in balance before we go into Scorpio season. And, I like to do things on the day or pretty close to because so many things are happening, right? And I think it's important for us to stay present. And I was listening to another astrologer and, they said, if they had, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, I can't, sometimes you forget who you talk to and who you don't talk to, but, they were talking about, and I might have seen this in the last or another video about 3A Atlas, but the whole idea of, you know, um, planning out things in ahead and what this conjunction means with that and this trine and all this stuff. But they never knew it was Barbara Handclough, but she said there was no way anyone knew 3A Atlas was going to come blazing through our solar system. And because that new energy is in here, it's changing everything. And I just want you guys to remember that everything is changing. But it's showing us it's changing for the best. And it's showing us it can change without the idea of being angry, without the idea of being pissed off, without the idea of, you know, might makes right. All of that is, I wish it was gone tomorrow. It's not, but all of that is being shown. It's moving away. And I saw some of the because it's got to come back into balance. It's got to come back into balance. And if you're like, well, why didn't it come back to balance before? We've had Libra seasons. We're now in this age of Aquarius. This is the time that everything's changing. Um, Most of the I mean, all the planets, not all the planets, but the big planets are moving into fire and air signs. We're moving out of earth and water. So it's going to be a different energy, right? Um, and there's one more thing I want to say. Mercury is going to go retrograde in Sagittarius on November 9th, right? Oh, good, Mercury retrograde, okay. But I think it's really important to, and I don't, like to talk too far out ahead, but the idea of Mercury retrograding in a fire sign. right? Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, who is in Cancer. And so I think it's going to keep this idea of balance. We will be in Scorpio season, um, but it's still this balancing act of the feminine and masculine coming back in alignment within ourselves, within our community, within our galaxy, and really starting to blur those lines of what it means to be feminine and what it means to be masculine, right? And the fact that you're like, well, feminine people, present and do this. And it's like, because of the idea, let's just say this. Okay, if you can see what I'm coming from. So like the idea of like women are genteel and soft, um, but not warriors or tough, but then you're like, well, there's, you know, plenty of female warriors, if you will, but women have to go through childbirth. Okay, that's really fucking tough. Women can incubate a baby, right? And or you see, women run households, run all these things, right? And you're like, okay, well, that's like the masculine, right? But that the masculine's supposed to be like that. But then um, you think of like male philosophers and like receiving information and writing things down. And you'd be like, but that's kind of like a lady thing, right? And so we're coming back into this balance and understanding how we are is masculine, how we are is feminine, right? It just is. And this is going to be the conversation moving forward. Um, the I am, right? The being. The sun and the moon reflecting each other. Back in the day, the moon was masculine, the feminine was the sun, you know. So how do we remember that and move forward? Because if we're like, well, but wait, it's gonna trip us up. So we're in this time of rebalancing, we're in this time of remembering, right? And we're in this time of moving forward. And it's a really uh bananas timeline to be in, but this is where we're at. And it can be a really beautiful time when we give ourselves the break, when we give ourselves the balance, when we give ourselves the permission to breathe out and say it's okay. And also, we don't need to know what's always happening in the next moment. I know social media and all this instant gratification wants us to get there. People were saying, okay, well, now what with the no kings, and it was like, what do you mean now what? There was something happened, you guys. Like the fact that, we're in a media blackout and we can organize 8 million people peacefully, that's the message. That's the message, you know? That's the message. The message is we all don't hate each other, right? The message is we do have love in our hearts. The message is that we can get into crowds, everything's going to be okay. Because if you take that message, right, and you sit with it, well, then it should percolate and it will percolate to when they're talking about things of crime or these people can't get along or, well, we did. We just did, right? And then it's starting a new story about, how we think of violence or what causes violence, right? Because we just saw 8 million people can come together under the guise of freedom, right? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I mean, just that. I got it. I got it. I get capitalism and colonialism and all those things, right? That's not lost on me. But that idea of gathering peacefully and being okay with it, that's a pretty that's the message. That's a strong message. And we'll see it unfold from there, right? So in this dark moon, you guys give yourselves a fucking break, because we've been in it to win it, and then we're gonna still be in it to win it. but understanding we're coming back into balance, we're coming back into wholeness. The planets are getting this there as well. The planets are supporting us. And you guys, I've told you this before, but I do think of worst case scenarios when like, okay, Mars or Merc in Mars and Mercury are together in Scorpio in conjunction with Lilith and what this could mean. I do think about these things. Um, and but what it's showing is we're moving forward. We're moving forward. There is no going back. And it's just for us to show up um, and be okay with letting go, be okay coming back into balance, being okay with being who we are, and being okay with letting others be who they are, and not always having to make like a big stink about everything, right? Um, we're in a new time, we're in a new and a day and age, and it's here and it's going to keep going. So I'm going to leave it there. All right, friends, if you guys want to connect with me, I'm on Instagram at Independence ST NOLA. I'm here at YouTube as well. And then also my website, independencestreetnola.com. And like I said, we're getting ready to start a new lunar cycle with Moon School. So if you guys are interested in that, please reach out. And you can find that on my website, actually, if you want to reach out that way. Until then, enjoy this time of rest, enjoy this time of realignment. Um, enjoy this time in the void for sure. Except like love the darkness to see what we can create together. And then we'll get on it again in Scorpio season. Okay, friends, till then.